Hey guys, welcome back to yet another Remnant 2 video. Today we're continuing our New Game Apocalypse Archetype ranking series, where we look at each of the archetypes starting loadouts on a brand new character, and test it against roughly the first hour of an Apocalypse run. Just like before, we'll be scoring these archetypes based on 3 metrics: effectiveness, fashion, and fun factor. If you haven't seen at least part 1, I recommend starting there, since I give a more detailed explanation on what exactly these scores represent. But to quickly summarize, effectiveness is how well the character generally performs, fashion is how good the character looks while staying at blue equip weight, and fun factor is how much fun I had while playing. And before we begin, just a few quick reminders. This score does not consider the endgame effectiveness of an archetype. This is only about a brand new character starting from scratch on the hardest difficulty. Do not use this video as a guide to theorycraft your level 20 character. Also, these tests are not performed equally across all characters. Some characters will start in different locations as others, and therefore will encounter different challenges. Some characters are simply better under different conditions, but it's important to capture the randomness factor that is core to the Remnant experience. And of course, everything in this video is purely from my point of view and is just my opinion. I play a lot of Remnant, so what's good for me is not necessarily good for you. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's move on to the first archetype of this video. First up for today's video is the Summoner, and their starting loadout is certainly a mixed bag. They start with the crossbow, the submachine gun, and the rebellion spear. They get the knotted armor set, and their starting ability is Minion Hollow. Now, as the name implies, the Summoner has a large focus on summoning minions. Their starting summon, the Root Hollow, is surprisingly good. They're fast, they're aggressive, and they do a ton of damage, even on Apocalypse difficulty. You can also have up to 2 of them at the same time. They can generate threat and tank for a little bit, but unlike the dog, they don't regenerate health on their own. Also, they don't have a lot of health, so if they die, the cooldown to bring them back is pretty long. You can also hold down the summon button to cause your summons to explode, but it's honestly much better just to keep your summons up for as long as possible. Also, the Root Hollows can't attack enemies flying above them, so it's fortunate we didn't start in Narude for this run. I don't know why, but the hollows are making these bright particle effects. I'm pretty sure this was a visual bug, so I apologize if you're watching this video in the dark and suddenly get flashbanged. The prime perk for the Summoner is Ruthless. Ruthless significantly increases the damage and attack speed of your minions for 20 seconds after you deal damage to them, the minions. As I said, the hollows don't have a lot of health, and they don't have passive health regeneration, so you really shouldn't intentionally inflict more damage on them. If your summons are dead and on cooldown, then this perk does nothing. I personally don't like this perk at all, but you could potentially get a lot of value out of your summons if you are willing to micromanage them with this perk. Moving on, to get our armor set to blue equip weight, we can remove the chest and helmet. While this isn't diaper butt levels of bad fashion-wise, we can do better, so let's switch over to the Elder set minus the helmet. This doesn't use the knotted armor set at all, but it still looks kind of Summoner themed to me, I guess. I'm definitely stretching the rules here, but I'm sure you'll understand why. For our starting rings, we're going with the Black Cat Band and Dran Scavenger Ring. Black Cat Band because it's Apocalypse difficulty and I don't like dying, and Dran Scavenger Ring for that lemon-scented hint of health regeneration. For the starting mod, I went with Scrap Shot. Scrap Shot will synergize well with my crossbow by slowing enemies down and allowing me to land precise headshots. Healing Shot would have been a solid choice as well, since it would allow me to keep my Root Hollows alive for longer, and keep myself alive longer too, I guess. Moving on to weapons. The starting long gun for the Summoner is the crossbow. The crossbow is a weapon that should be much better than it actually is. It does pretty good damage, and will one-shot smaller enemies if you hit their weak spot. Even larger enemies can be down quickly if your aim is good. Also, this weapon is silent, which can help you thin out groups of enemies safely. Combined with a decent reload speed for a single-shot weapon, the crossbow has all the ingredients to be top tier. But it has one huge problem that ruins the entire weapon, and that is that the projectile frequently misses. This is annoying at the best of times and devastating at the worst of times. Either way, it's a problem this weapon simply can't afford to have. Other single-shot weapons, like the Widowmaker, do not have this issue. At least not in my experience. As for the handgun, the Summoner starts with the MP60-R submachine gun. Yes, you heard me right. The Summoner starts with the weapon you can already get for free right at the start of the game. Picking up a second SMG will increase your weapon level to +1, which is nice, I guess. But if you consider that the starting guns cost 1,000 scrap or more when you buy them from Brabus, you are simply starting off with less value than, say, the Medic, who will have both the service pistol and SMG before leaving the ward. Now, about the SMG itself, this gun is pretty damn good for almost any situation. It has good damage combined with a high rate of fire, making it an excellent choice for mid to close range encounters. If you crouch down and fire in short bursts, you can get surprisingly good accuracy at longer ranges. Unlike the 𝐑𝗲22, it has enough punch to handle larger enemies. Overall, the SMG is an excellent weapon. Like I said before, you can get it for free at the ward on any character, so you might as well at least pick it up every time. Moving on to the melee weapon. The starting melee weapon for the Summoner is the Rebellion Spear. It does decent damage, has a pretty fast attack speed, but realistically can only damage one enemy at a time, making it a poor choice for anything other than a 1v1 fight. You can get somewhat of a sweeping attack using the backstep, but yeah, this isn't going to save you from a horde of enemies. The boss of this run was Legion. Fortunately, the Summoner is a perfect match for this boss. The Hollows do a great job of taking care of the adds, and the crossbow deals significant damage to the boss itself. This was, without a doubt, the easiest Legion encounter I've had on Apocalypse difficulty. So with all that being said, let's review and give a score to the Summoner. First up is effectiveness. The weapons are generally pretty good, although, like I said, the crossbow's accuracy issue kinda sucks. The summons are very effective while they're alive and kicking ass, but once they die and go on cooldown, you're kinda vulnerable. With the summons active, the Summoner gets a 9 out of 10 for effectiveness. Without the summons, the Summoner gets a 5 out of 10. So as a general effectiveness score, I'm going to meet in the middle and call this a 7 out of 10. Next up is Fashion. Again, I don't really know how to give this a fair score. Although I used mixed armor sets in previous runs, I can't really credit the Summoner since I didn't use any piece of the knotted armor set. I'll have to score this based on how the knotted armor looks, so for that reason I'm giving this a 3 out of 10 for Fashion. Finally, we have Fun Factor. This one, yet again, is kinda hard to score. Landing headshots with the crossbow is very fun when you're able to. It can be fun watching your summons tear apart groups of enemies. But after a while, it loses its appeal somewhat. I personally prefer when I have a more active role in combat, so for those reasons, I'm giving the Summoner a 5 out of 10 on the Fun Factor scale. This gives the Summoner an overall score of 15 out of 30. The sixth archetype of the series is the Explorer, and this loadout certainly stands out for the wrong reasons. They start with the Scattergun, Repeater Pistol, and the Hero Sword. They also get the Realm Walker armor set, and their starting ability is Planeswalker. When activated, Planeswalker will increase your entire party's movement speed by 20%, as well as reduce stamina consumption by 80% for 30 seconds. This ability is quite good for exploring the map, or running away if you need a moment to heal. However, this ability doesn't really offer much help in combat encounters. There is one exception, which I'll touch on later, but compared to every other starting ability in the game, this one, in my opinion, just isn't as useful as the others. The Explorer's prime perk is Lucky, which gives you a 10% chance to get better item drops when defeating strong enemies. In theory, this can be quite good, as you can potentially get more resources early on, which can then be used to get rings, mods, weapons, etc. But the fact that it's only 10% and only applies to strong enemies, it really makes it a hard sell compared to something like Die Hard. If this perk was reworked to guarantee extra loot every 10 kills or so, and if it applied to every enemy that drops loot, not just the strong ones, then it would be much easier to call this a good perk. As it stands right now, Lucky on a fresh character practically does nothing. Moving on, to get our armor set to the blue equip weight, we don't have to do anything. We're already there, we already look good. Great job, you did it. As for the rings, I went with the Black Cat Band, Dran Scavenger Ring, and Drazir Sniper Sigil. The Drazir Sniper Sigil will grant our Scattergun a little more extra damage at max range. Black Cat Band and Dran Rings are of course for the same reasons as always. For the starting mod, I went with Concussive Shot. Much like with the Challenger, I expect to be in close range quite often. Concussive Shot will give me a pretty strong damage boost in close range. Healing Shot would have been a good option as well, but I used Concussive Shot for this run. Moving on to weapons. The starting long gun for the Explorer is Ford Scattergun. The Scattergun is a damn good shotgun. It does high damage and has a decent rate of fire. You can take quick shots while moving, allowing you to stay aggressive and mobile. It does a single feed reload, but if you can remember to reload every 3 or 4 shots, it isn't really that bad. Easily the biggest downside of the scattergun is its pretty short range and large spread. The effective range feels worse than the Bulldog, so you really need to get close for this gun to work at all. If you can close the distance, this gun works pretty great and is fun to use. As for the handgun, the Explorer starts with the repeater pistol. This is the first instance in this series where we have already talked about a weapon, since the repeater pistol is also the starting handgun for the Hunter. So I'm going to focus on how the repeater pistol works as part of the Explorer's arsenal. Since the scattergun is a very short-range weapon, the repeater pistol is the only real option the Explorer has to deal damage from a distance. This puts it in a somewhat opposite role than it was for the Hunter, where the Hunter has a long-range primary weapon, and the repeater was better utilized as the close-range option. In my opinion, the repeater simply doesn't perform well enough at longer ranges. I found myself preferring to close the distance and use my scattergun instead. Lastly, we have the Hero Sword as the Explorer's melee weapon. The Hero Sword is basically a better steel sword, with the added benefit of a ranged charge attack. The distance and strength of the charge attack is quite good, and would even be a strong option to deal damage at a distance if the windup wasn't so slow. I found myself too vulnerable when trying to use the charge attack in a typical combat encounter, which is a shame because otherwise it's really quite good. If you use Planeswalker, you can perform quite a few charge attacks, making the sword viable even against stronger enemies. The boss of this run was Mother Mind, and this fight was brutal with the Explorer. Mother Mind was a regenerator, and the scattergun just couldn't deal enough damage to her, primarily because of her distance. The fight took me nearly 4.5 minutes, mostly of running around and getting more ammo. This was far and away the worst boss encounter in the series, and it's no surprise given the Explorer's loadout. So with all that being said, let's review and give a score to the Explorer. First up is effectiveness. On a brand new character, on the hardest difficulty, the Explorer just isn't that great. The archetype itself is clearly designed to farm for loot, and the loadout seems to be more for lore reasons than for balance reasons. The scattergun has its moments, but otherwise this class is a challenge to use. For that reason, I'm giving the Explorer a 4 out of 10 for effectiveness. Next up is fashion. There's no denying the Realm Walker set looks pretty cool. The fact that you can wear the whole armor set and stay a blue equip weight is a big bonus. So for those reasons, I'm giving the Explorer a 7 out of 10 for fashion. Lastly, we have fun factor. Look, the Explorer is not a practical choice, but I won't lie, I had quite a bit of fun running around at high speeds, weaving between enemies and blasting them with my scattergun. The miserable boss fight really dampened the experience, so I'll meet this one halfway and give the Explorer a 5 out of 10 on the fun factor scale. This gives the Explorer a disappointing, but not at all surprising, overall score of 16 out of 30. And that's going to do it for this video. If you liked the video and want to see this series continued, please drop a like and let me know down in the comments below. Also, consider subscribing if you enjoy Remnant content. I have another video in mind that I'd like to complete before starting part 4 of this series, so thank you for your patience and stay tuned. In the last episode, I opened up to you guys about YouTube failing to promote my level 1 run, and then a day later, that video saw a huge spike in views. Well, huge for my channel, at least. I appreciate you guys giving it a chance, and now I feel much better about the whole situation. So truly, thank you to everyone who supported me there. You guys are the best. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.